All right, check, check, check. Cameron, actually not the first comment because I messed up the first stream audio somehow, and I had to make a new one. So we're gonna have to wait a second because we're gonna have to get some people flipped over. Hey, Joy. All right, give me a second. I'm trying to get. We started one live stream and the audio messed up, so I ended that and I started another one, and so we're trying to get everybody flipped over. All right, Annie's back. Annie found us again. Thanks for continuing to search. Not quite everybody, Colin. We're missing a couple people, mainly like Hannah, Trevor. Annie's here. Ty's not here. He was here. I don't know how to send that out. I know I just massively messed up the links and whatnot. Is this easily findable, Colin, to find the link again? There's Ty. What's up, Ty? Hopefully we can get everybody flipped over to the new link. I'm on it live right now. Just go to the page.
I can't even find the page. Google that.
All right. I think if people just go to, I see that we're going up. Yes, I think if people just go to our YouTube page, they'll find it. But yes, all they need to do is search WRCC Student Ministry, and the live is there. It's all right. We're getting there. We got 11. Yes, Karen is back. Thanks for joining us. Sorry about my technical difficulties. This is when not having Colin at my house is works against me. I'm not a technology-driven person, apparently. I'm learning, but it's taking me time. Thanks, Colin. Send it. Hey, if you're on here and there's other people you know we're planning to get on here, send it out to them right now and just shoot them the link so that people can see what we're doing here, if possible. All right, so this past weekend we talked a little bit about control, which is funny because we were at that time able to at least move around a little freer than we are now. But now we're in this place where we are locked and loaded, shelter at home. The only way you can go out is if it's for work, if you're trying to help somebody else, or, excuse me, essential work, and if you're going to get groceries or food. So talk about the next step of control kind of being lost. So first, my question to those of you who are on here is, what has that been like for you, or what has emotions or stuff that has that brought about for you as far as just being in lockdown and not being able to leave the house now, and what's that been looking like for you? I also want you to be thinking through what are some questions that you have when it comes to control, and especially when it comes to what we're dealing with right now, but just control when it comes to God in our lives. Those are some things that I've been kind of processing through, even after Sunday. Still trying to process through what's that look like. Just the control piece of losing control when it comes to what we're allowed to do. But then where do we really, truly have control in our lives? So, Trace, what's up? Yo, it's good to see you. Thanks for being on here. Not that I can see you, but I at least know you're on here, so that's exciting. Trevor has found the link and joined us as well. I'm glad you found that, Trev. Cam Englert, what's up? Glad you could switch over and join us and hopefully not heckle me on YouTube. So tell me what that's been like. Shoot me a comment, shoot me a question about control. What's that been like for you? No, Cam Englert, you're not allowed to go get tacos. Sorry. I guess you can have them ordered in if you want. But what's that look like in your household? This idea of control and losing out on some control. So here's some things I've been thinking about, right? So I can still control my day, how my day rolls and what that looks like, the timing of my day and what I choose to do with it. Hannah said, I live alone. I have a lot of control. Yes, true. You are by yourself, and so you have a lot of control. But what I've been thinking through is like even structuring my day, structuring our days as a family. I think, you get a chance to, everything else has been changed about our schedules and our calendars and what we're doing. But in the midst of that, I found like last week, it was one of those things where I was just watching the news and waiting for the next thing to be kind of taken away, trying to figure out what ministry looked like. I had no structure to my days. It was just kind of wake up and shoot from the hip all day long. And this week, what I've tried to do is structure my days. So there are certain times I'm doing certain things. So that way there's a way in which I can really control something, right? And keep myself sane. So I get up, we get rolling, we do e-learning stuff. You'll laugh at this. I make the kids get dressed so they can have breakfast. No pajamas all day long. Let's get dressed and actually have some kind of structure to our day. The first day we did e-learning, it was pretty funny. Emma was so about e-learning that we had our interactions and our stuff that we had to do in the morning. And then it was like lunchtime. So we broke for lunchtime. Well, what they do after lunchtime is recess. And so they got in a single file line. That's right. My two children in a single file line. And they marched outside to the trampoline and had recess. And so, again, as silly as that sounds, there was somewhat of a schedule to that. And, Emma was like, how much time do we have for recess? I think we usually have 20 minutes or whatever. So we gave them 30 minutes and they wanted to move on. So I just think that's one of those ways that we can help build not only control, but it gives me a sense of purpose for the day. But it also, gives me an ability to process through each and every single kind of moment of the day, which at times seems like it's really out of control and out of my reach as to what I'm actually allowed to do. Cam, you said, but that's what I'm struggling with, control. Yes, and with eating everything. I know I have also found myself eating constantly, pretty much. So I think that's another piece, is to not just sit in a room by yourself and just eat and hang out. I was laughing because I was going to look this up, and then I forgot in the midst of all the stuff that happened in the beginning. But Hannah and I kind of laughed about this meme that had to do with coronavirus. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Yep, here it is. It was a meme made out of a, I don't know, some kind of news conference thing that basically was this lady. And it says that we'll probably sit around and cook some soups, eat breads and desserts, and just get fat and sassy. So I'm hoping and praying that you're not just sitting around getting fat and sassy, but that you're actually trying to create some of that scheduling to your day. So my encouragement to you in that would be, create some schedule, create some time when you're going to choose to do this, and then you're going to move to the next thing, and you're going to move to the next thing. So that way you have, again, there has to be some kind of sense of meaning to a day. So we would love for you to think through that, process through that, and what that might look like. Colin said, I'm definitely having trouble not reading the news. It's just so easy to see all of the terrible going on, but I've been trying to unplug as well. I think that's true too. Like, don't just sit in front of the TV and watch news and watch the latest updates. It's easy to do that right now as things are changing and transitioning so fast. But I think that's part of not like letting go of some of that control is just being okay with what you do know about this and then moving on from what you don't. So letting that stuff fall by the wayside. So here's what I was thinking maybe we do is spend a little time in scripture too today. Just processing through some of that. What's it look like, when we don't have control, and what can we control? So as I was thinking through that, I was reading a couple different devotions in the last couple of days. It's funny how what I've been reading in devotions has actually tied directly into what we're doing here. And so with this whole coronavirus. And so my encouragement to you would be, again, something that you can control is your time in the Word. We're going to talk a lot more about this Sunday, but the truth is there's no restrictions on the time that you spend in the Word. There's no restrictions to the time you spend in prayer. There's no restrictions to the time you spend reaching out to other people. I think what we sometimes get locked into is that now that we're all stuck in a house, we can't go anywhere, we can't do anything, and so we almost feel defeated. At least that's the way I felt at times. And so I wanted to encourage you that's not where we sit. We have the opportunity to be able to continue to encourage one another, continue to comfort one another, continue to come alongside one another. And so that's kind of my encouragement to you, is to continue to do that. I'm looking for a passage right now. Hannah said, fat and sassy. That's right. Don't just sit around and become fat and sassy, but let's use this time. I talked to a lot of you recently that just talking through, like, especially leading up to the coronavirus, is you didn't have time to spend in God's Word, or time to spend in prayer because you were so busy in your calendars and your schedules. And the truth is that's all been eliminated for you. I know that there's a little thing that's been going around the internet that there are gods, and that God took all those gods away, and now we have that time to connect to Him. But I think there's something true to that. Like, we have an opportunity now just to be able to interact and really connect with the Lord in a greater way that we haven't before. And so I would encourage you to continue to dive into the Word. This is something we're doing as a student ministry, and we'd love for you to join in on it, is YouVersion devotions. And so we're doing those together where we can comment and interact and talk to each other. I have not completed the last day of our first 7-day devotion, but tomorrow, Thursday, we're going to start a new devotion time. And we would love for you, or new Devo on YouVersion, we'd love for you to join us in that, because it'd be an opportunity for you to connect to other people, opportunity for you to get into God's Word every single day, and to be challenged in something. So this past one has been about dangerous prayers. And we've been, as a group, kind of praying through some dangerous prayers and what's it look like to pray dangerous prayers. Those are things that are in our control. And so I just want to encourage you to jump in with us. If you want to be a part of that, it's pretty easy. All you do is get on YouVersion, download the app, create an account, send me an invite, and I'll put you in the next Devo we start, which is going to be tomorrow. So we would love for you to join us in that. I'm looking up a passage real quick here because I want to make sure. Yes. So here's the passage that I've been kind of thinking through for us in just this time, because I think we got to be honest with what we're working through and feeling. And so when it comes to control, these are things that I can kind of control. And so that's what I'm trying to do right now. Is there any encouragement from belonging to Christ, any comfort from His love, any fellowship together in the Spirit? Are your hearts tender and compassionate? Then make me truly happy by agreeing wholeheartedly with each other, loving one another, and working together with one mind and purpose. I think that I love this passage as I've read it differently this morning. It says, any fellowship together in the Spirit. And when I think about fellowship, I think about we have to be in each other's presence. The truth is we don't have to be in each other's presence. We're doing fellowship right now as you guys are hanging out here chatting on the side about what's going on. And we have the opportunity to be connected in greater ways. I know I've been teasing Hannah about this, but I'll throw a promo out for her too. She downloaded Marco Polo, which one of the U students said was an old person app, but it's just a way to communicate with people. Back and forth videos, talking to each other. You guys do this all the time through social media during the school year. Why not do that now through text message, through FaceTime, through Marco Polo, through Instagram, through whatever platform you have, to actually check in on each other and see how you're doing, talk to each other, see what you're doing through the day, FaceTime each other, talk to each other, continue to encourage each other. I think what's been most encouraging for me has been the moments that I've gotten on a call and talked to other people that I normally usually see on a regular basis, and I actually get to see them and just encourage them and them encourage me that we're all in this together. So just thinking through that, what Cameron Alexander said, Ashley just recommended that to me. I know Ashley and Hannah are trying to get everybody on our ministry to be on Marco Polo. And so, no, it's not the game. It's an app that you can send videos apparently back and forth. I'm not on it yet, but there are people that are on it. So here's what I want to ask. What are some questions that you have when it comes to control? We've been talking about that. We talked about that this past weekend. What are some questions that you might have that pertain to control? Colin, is that like TikTok? I don't think so. I think TikTok's like more like music videos and stuff like that. But again, I'm not the technology guy. So I think Marco Polo is just a video, give a message through video, send it to somebody, and they send it back. Yes, Colin, we're both old. Hannah says it's like video voice mail. All right, give me some questions. I know you guys have some questions. Shoot something at me. This is almost like small group. I have to like sit in silence by myself, which is weird. Stephanie Farmer said that she does Marco Polo, and if she does it, then we can do it. Colin, that's for you and I think we could probably figure it out if we wanted to, but we'll see. Maybe that'll be on my schedule for tomorrow. Any questions when it comes to control? Oh, yes, control, Millie. So we talked about control from last weekend on Sunday. And so I just want to know what are some of those questions that you might have pertaining to control or what's going on right now in our world with us having a lack of control as far as where we can go and what we can do. What's control look like with our relationship with the Lord, all those things. So I just kind of want to answer any of your questions or start a conversation based off of that. We just read a little bit of Philippians chapter 2, because I think one of those things we think we lose is the ability to help other people out and connect to other people. And so I think what I'd love for you to do is continue to connect to each other. Yeah, Hannah said, what are some small things you think we could control during this time? Like I said, your schedule is one of those things that you can easily control. Setting out a schedule for yourself throughout the day, making sure you have certain times you're doing certain things, eating lunch at the same time throughout the day, getting outside and taking a walk at the same time. Today is a beautiful day to definitely be outside at some point. But setting up, that's something you can easily control. I think you can easily control who you're interacting with and who you're reaching out to. We just had a call just a little bit ago with some of our high school small group leaders, encouraging them to reach out to our middle school students. And I think you can definitely control who you're reaching out to. Who are you talking to? Who are you checking in on? And we talked about that a little bit in the last couple of weeks, but we truly need to do that in this time because there's the only way we can connect with other people. So I think that's something else that you control. You can control the time you spend in the Word and through prayer. You have the ability to do that at as much as you want right now. And so I just encourage you to control that. Make that the first thing that you're doing through the day. That's what I'm trying to do, is just get up and make sure I'm doing that first thing first, and then getting on with the rest of what I need to do through the day. Annie said, do you have any ideas of how we can serve the community even if we're stuck at home? That's a good question. That's a really good question. Um, I mean, obviously, the easy churchy answer to that is to pray. I mean, praying for our. I think one of the things I've learned through this dangerous prayers is that I don't pray things. The Devo that we're doing together with some students, I don't pray things. I don't pray dangerous prayers. I think the quote this morning from the section where the guy's just encouraging us and setting up the Devo said, if you wrote down all your prayers from the last 7 days, and and God answered every single one of them exactly how you prayed them, would the world change at all? And that was kind of humbling to me. I don't know if in the last 7 days, if my prayers would have changed much as a result of, or if the world would have changed much as a result of my prayers. So think through that. What are you praying for those in this community? I think the other opportunity is just to do just that, to connect to people, figure out ways to try to connect to people in more creative ways. It's all we've been doing as a student team. How can we connect with you guys in this moment when we can't see each other on a regular basis like we normally do? How can we connect people who might not be connected? How can we get on calls and Zooms and FaceTime chats, whatever they are, to just be able to connect with students? Who do I need to pick up the phone and call? So I think those are some of those things that you have the ability to do. Serving the community is a little bit more difficult because we really are locked in place right now. So I think that one, I'd have to think a little bit more about that one. Millie, what are some tangible things we can do to surrender control to God? That's a great question. I think spending some time processing through what is it that's bothered you the most that you've lost. So maybe, like for me, I know the thing I've lost the most is the ability to go and do my job. And so I find a lot of fulfillment, but I also find a lot of control in that. Like I can control what I do and when I do it and how I do it. Hey, Gabe, but I can control those things. And so that's probably what I need to surrender the most. Like that it's not about me and me accomplishing X, Y, Z so ministry takes place. So I think maybe the answer to that, Millie, would be thinking through what's bothered you the most that you've had to give up in that control in this situation. And then figuring out, okay, how do I surrender that? How do I give that to the Lord every single day? How do I start out the day just giving that over to Him and let Him use that in the way He wants to use that? That's a good question. I have to keep thinking about that one too. You guys have some good questions. Trevor, is COVID-19 virus part of God's plan? Trevor, thanks for that one. Yeah, I don't know how it wouldn't be. I believe in a God who is sovereign, who knows everything that's happening. I believe that God is controlling every aspect of our universe and our world, and He created it all, and therefore He's allowed this to take place. And there's something that's going to be worked out of this that would be beautiful and good. We can't see that. Again, it's the same thing when you talk about tragedy, you talk about loss, you talk about the bad things. It's that question of why do bad things happen if we have a loving and good God? That question is coming from a place that bad things couldn't happen. And the truth is that Jesus promised us over and over that we're going to be faced with challenges. We're going to have things that are going to be difficult, that we're going to have to walk through and deal with. And so this is just one of those things. It's as a result of a mutation of another virus that we have, which again is probably the result of sin. And so, yeah, I do see it as somehow being redemptive for God's plan. I don't know about you, but this past week on Sunday morning, there was more on social media about the church and about God and about church services than I've ever seen on my social media. And that to me is just a way I think we are as the church are adapting, but I think it's also a way that God has just pushed us out of our comfort zone to get online and to actually interact with people in a different way. Heck, what we're doing right now is so out of my comfort zone and so out of our comfort zone to be doing something like this. And so I think God puts us in situations where we have to stretch and grow and change, and this is one of those. And I think we have to continue to figure out what life looks like in ministry and really loving other people looks like in the midst of this. So I hope that kind of answers that question. Cameron Alexander, I think this is more of a time to give up control and give that control to God, because we're constantly trying to control everything in our life. And right now, we don't have much control. Uh, I think this is a lesson. It absolutely is. Uh, Absolutely. I think that it's an awesome opportunity for us to realize how much control we really have. I think maybe that's been the scariest part for me, is realizing that I don't have as much control as I think I do. I mean, you think you have control until you're told you can't leave your house unless you need to go to the grocery store or get food. Then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I don't have as much control as I wish I did. Again, I think it's just that false sense of control. Even coming down to schoolwork and the things that going to school, the activities you guys did after school, watching sports at night, like all those things have been stripped away and taken away from us. And again, it leaves you to wonder, what do you have left to control? And I think what we have left to control is definitely our response to that, what we choose to do with this time that God's given us. I read something the other day, because the way this affects us and my family is probably my kids the greatest. Like here, dad's home more, but dad has to be upstairs working while we're doing schoolwork. And today I had to run out and do a couple of errands that were okay by these standards. Some of it was work stuff, and then I had to go to the grocery store. But my my kids asked where I was, and Amanda said he's out running errands, and daddy's got to continue to work during this. And it was, well, this just stinks. I don't like that at all. I want him just to be at home, right? So even my kids at 6 and 9 are feeling this loss of control when it comes to what they're walking through. And I think that it's trying to figure out, how do we realize what we can control, and what we can't control is our response and what we choose to do. But at the same time, I saw this thing that in that same vein of thinking of my kids is, in 10 years, we're going to look back on coronavirus and we're going to think about the crazy time that we all had to stay at our houses, and that those crazy times that Lance was on YouTube on multiple times and messed things up. And we're going to laugh about those things. And my kids are going to remember being at home and doing school at home, watching movies late at night, eating dinner every single night together at the table, being on the trampoline and laying there at night staring up at the sky and the stars. Like, those are the things that we're going to remember in 10 years about right now. So thinking about that and keeping that long game perspective too, I think is a good thing for us to do in this moment, because we can, like Colin said, get caught up in the news and every single moment and being consumed by the good, the bad, the ugly of all this coronavirus. And the truth is, eventually we will be past this. This is a phase of our history. And so again, I take great encouragement in that in my own life, but hopefully that's encouraging to you too. Follow up to Trevor question from Karen: did God send COVID, or did he know and allow it? Ooh, that's a good question. I don't think we can answer that. Did God send COVID? I think that God definitely knew about that and allowed that to happen. I would struggle to say that he had no clue that that was going to take place, because I believe he's all knowing. I believe he's sovereign. I believe he's still in control. I don't believe that God's lost control. I don't believe God's stepped down from his throne. I don't believe that God's turned his back on America. I don't think that, or the world. I don't think any of those things. I think to some extent, yeah, he's allowed this to happen, and somehow it's going to be used for his glory. And I've seen that in little ways already. I've seen it in some big ways as I've watched church services be done online. I've seen people come to faith as a result of that. You think about a time when so many people put their hope in stocks and money and the possessions and the things that they have, and now those things are being taken away. They have no control over what's happening to those things, and all of a sudden it's like, what am I left with? Well, you're left with your eternity. Where are you going to be? What's life really about? And I think those are some of those questions that you end up having to answer in this time, and which is why I think it's so important for you guys to continue to be reaching out to your friends, continue to be reaching out to those kids that don't know Jesus, that you're sat next to in class. Reach out to them, see how they're doing, check in on them. I think it's an awesome opportunity to show them faith, show them what Jesus would be like. Jesus would be checking on people right now. And I truly believe that. So I think that's a great thing for us to be doing right now. Cam Engler, how can we continue to serve God in our church even while on house arrest? Yeah. Do you have an ankle bracelet? That's what I want to know, because I don't have one, but it feels like I need one right now. Just that. I mean, I hit on it. I think we continue to serve God and we continue to serve our church by being the hands and feet of Jesus right now, reaching out to your friends, your loved ones, your family members, your extended family members, encouraging people, setting an example. I think right now there's a lot of people who are just scared and fearful. I heard a great sermon this past week. I listened to Craig Groeschel and a bunch of other people. The great part about having sermons online is that Sunday, as I painted my daughter's room, I just listened to sermons. But what he was saying is that we're all carriers. You are a carrier. And so he was kind of relating that to the fact that we're all worried about who's a coronavirus carrier right now. And yet we're all carriers of something. And so that can be, we could be carriers of fear. We could be carriers of Christ's love. We could be carriers of anger. We could be carriers of all these different things. And I think right now, what you have the opportunity to be and to do is be a carrier of Christ's love, to be a carrier of positivity, to be a carrier of someone who sees a bigger picture than just what's on the news for today and thinks that it's a doomsday, the end of the world is coming because of the coronavirus. And so my encouragement to you would be to be that. I loved what Craig kind of finished the whole sermon with was he basically kept telling us we're carriers, you're a carrier, you're a carrier, you're a carrier. And the end of it said, is what you're carrying worth catching? Is what you're carrying worth catching? And I think that's so stinking good because what am I what are my kids catching from me that I'm carrying around this house as I process through coronavirus? What are my neighbors? Are my friends, my family members, as I talk to them on the phone? Are they catching fear and anxiety and this worry, or are they catching the peace that surpasses understanding? Are they catching a love that's going outside of the normal comfort zones to connect with people? Are they catching just a desire to be in community at whatever costs it takes? I mean, even getting on a YouTube live channel and messing things up and trying again, right? Like, and that's what I think we have to kind of focus on in this moment. That's the way we continue to be the church in the midst of this time. Obviously, praying for our church. That's I know I keep going back to praying and reaching out to people in your time with Jesus, but that's almost what we've been driven down to, the very basics. And those are the very basics. If you're not praying, I mean, I don't think that, to kind of play a little bit off of Karen and Trevor's question, I don't think that it was happenstance that we started Transform, this initiative to raise this money, and then we have this at the very beginning of Transform. I still believe Isaiah 43. I still believe that God's going to do something new. I believe that some of this has to do with how we're going to do church new when we come back from the coronavirus. I believe that this is just a way that we got pushed a little harder towards that something new. And so I think that's just something to keep in mind and continue to pray for the church. One of my favorite things from last week was I got to be a part of the food pantry. There were so many cars that were lined up at 1:00. And so there are people out there that are hurting, that are struggling, and we need to be praying for them, and we need to do our best to just be there for them. If somebody texts you, calls you, pick up, talk to them, give them, be that carrier of hope in this time. Ashley, you had a question. How are we supposed to be like positive and focusing on good and having peace while still processing the bad and not ignoring what we are upset about? That is a great question. So here's what I'd say, and I say this to you guys all the time. God's given you the full range of emotions for a reason. And so use them. I mean, use them. If you're frustrated and you're angry right now, that's okay. That's okay. The truth is that God's able to handle your anger, your frustration, your disappointment, and He wants to know what ways you're experiencing that. He wants you to communicate that to Him. And so, my encouragement to you would just be honest with the Lord about what you're feeling. I'm not asking you at any point to ignore what you might be upset about. I'll be honest, man. I'm frustrated. We're supposed to be headed to a mission trip in a few days that we're supposed to go on. Those things, I live for mission trips, right? If you've been on a mission trip with me, you know I just absolutely love serving other people with you guys. And so that is hard. That's hard for me to grasp and swallow, that we're not going to get the chance to do that, let alone, and this is, I guess, what I've started to think through. And as I've said that, I started to pray this way too, is like, as frustrating and angering as that is to me, I still have it pretty darn good. I'm going to be honest with you. There's people that we're going to go serve in North Carolina that still have homes that they're not allowed to live in because the government says they're not able to be lived in. And then this is happening. And so, not to Jesus juke us, not to make you feel bad. I don't intend to do either of those two things. But the truth is that there's other people who are experiencing stuff that's way more difficult than us. And I think I realized that even today, as I ran an errand and I was out driving and drove by just a few places that made me realize, like, I've got it pretty stinking good right now to be where I'm at in my house and what I'm doing. And so I think keeping that perspective is a good thing. But I think, again, God knows. Let Him know what you're feeling. Process through that with Him. Then the other side of that, I think, to have positivity in the midst of it is like, hey, here's the deal. This is going to end. Okay. This is going to end. They might not be telling you that on TV. It's going to end. At some point, we're going to have a cure. We're going to have some kind of antibody that's going to work against coronavirus. And God has blessed us with some brilliant minds and some unbelievable medical abilities to end up finding something that's going to get us to a point where we're on the other side of coronavirus. Makes me think back to the N1H1 was a big deal quite a few years ago. That broke out while I was doing ministry in Memphis. And actually, I was supposed to take a mission trip about a month from when that all broke out. And we had a bunch of kids drop out of the mission trip, and we were still planning to go to Mexico because the area of Mexico we were going to, there were no cases. It was so funny because I had parents pull their students from the trip, and then probably 2 or 3 days later, we had a case of N1H1 in one of our schools that we pulled kids from. And so it was just like, it's in our backyard. Let me take your kids to Mexico to get them out and let them be free from this. So I think it's just, if we get caught up in that, there's no hope in this. We get caught up in this is never going to end. I'll be honest. This is day one of the restricted, no travel stuff. It's like day, I think, 9 of just the coronavirus and trying to socially distance. And it sucks. I'm struggling. I'll be honest with you. I struggle. I'm an extrovert. I know I joke about that. But man alive, I miss seeing people. I love my wife. I love my kids. I love the extra time to be around them, but not being able to see you guys on a regular basis, not being able to see the people that I get the chance to interact with on a regular basis it's very difficult. And so I think just being honest with that and being willing to realize, it's okay to be frustrated and angry in that sense with those things. But I think on the other side is to hold in light the fact that in the scope of eternity, this 2-week period of being sheltered in place is just a little blip. It's just a little blip, and it's just a little phase. And I have to remind myself of that a lot in different situations in life. It's just a phase, and there'll be a different phase that we'll be worried about a year from now. 5 years from now, we'll look back on this and say, remember that time we had to do, man, that was miserable. But holy cow, I used my computer, my phone, and all those social media things so much more in that time. And man, do you remember how that changed everything we did and how we did life and how we did ministry? And, you're going to remember those things. You're not going to remember the really desperate moments where you're frustrated and mad and angry. And so I think that's something just to keep close to your heart and hold on to. Jesus is bigger than coronavirus. He's defeated everything that is of darkness and death. And so I would say coronavirus falls in that. When I see those death toll numbers rise, honestly, it gives me hope for Easter. I can't wait to celebrate Easter. And if we have to celebrate Easter through YouTube, we're going to do it the best stinking way we can so that everybody can see that there is great hope in the fact that Jesus has defeated death and resurrected. And so I get fired up about celebrating Easter. Like, let's go. I'm fine if we're online for Easter because we're going to knock it out of the stinking ballpark. And yeah, that's putting pressure on Hannah and Trevor and Colin and Stephanie and I, but I don't care. Because it's the greatest thing we could ever celebrate, and I'm already getting excited about it. So, all right, that's enough. I'm going to get off my soapbox about that. Any other questions? We'll probably wrap up here in just a few minutes, but is there any other questions? These are some excellent questions for you guys to be asking. I want you to continue asking those good questions of us as a team. Keep processing through these questions with your friends. I mean, these are things that are good to talk about. I think you have to talk about these things in this time, or else you can be stuck with your thoughts, and that can be a really rough and tough place to be. So I encourage you to keep calling people, getting groups together, and just talking. Here's if there's no other questions, here's kind of what I've been praying to that end of just being hope and being carriers of hope. This is from Ecclesiastes chapter 3. And I love this passage because I lived this out when I accepted Jesus. Before I'd accepted Jesus, you guys know the story where I knew that there was something more than just this world. I knew there had to be something more to live for than just my pleasure and my happiness every single day. And this passage is what I go back to. It's Ecclesiastes chapter 3. This is verse 9. It says this. What do people really get for all their hard work? And he's talking about just life in general. I have seen the burden God has placed on all of us. And yet God has made everything beautiful in its own time. Think about that when we're talking about the coronavirus. That God's made everything, and he's going to make everything beautiful, including the coronavirus, beautiful for its own time. And then this part, he has planted eternity in the human heart. But even so, people cannot see the whole scope of God's work from beginning to end. I think that's the challenge, to understand that there is a whole scope of God's work that we can't necessarily see from beginning to end. But the truth is that he's implanted eternity in each and every single person's heart, whether they know Jesus or not. And so my challenge to you is to be a carrier of eternity, a carrier of encouragement, a carrier of joy. That does not mean you can't feel emotions. It doesn't mean you can't sympathize and identify with other people and the frustrations and even the anger some of this stuff brings. I think it's good to be honest with those things and then remind people, but there's something so much more than just the stinking world. There's something so much more than just the things that we do throughout this life. There's eternity to be had, and that's what hangs in the balance. And so that's my prayer, my hope for you guys, that you would be carriers of hope, that you be carriers of just encouragement and carriers of peace in the midst of time when there are a lot of carriers of fear right now, a lot of them out there. And so I'm just praying for each of you. Please know that our team's praying for you. If there's anything we can do, reach out to us. If there's any way we can pray, reach out to us. Hey, a couple things before I'll let you all go. One is, if you're not in our devotion, our YouVersion devotion, we're going to start a new one of those tomorrow. If you want in, just shoot over to YouVersion, shoot me a friend request on YouVersion, and I'll automatically put you in that. We're going to start a new one tomorrow. So if you're already in the current study, I can roll you over into the next study, but I'd rather you tell me you want to be rolled over into the next study. So just send me a message and let me know that. Second, we've been working with some other youth groups, and we're going to have a quarantine spirit week next week for our youth ministries. There's going to be multiple youth ministries that are going to have at this, but you're going to see more about this soon. But just get excited, because next week, the first week of Noblesville Spring Break, we're going to have a straight up quarantine spirit week. We'll have dress codes for each day, and we're just going to get crazy, post pictures, and have some fun. And so keep watching our social media. We'll be posting about that soon. But there's been quite a few of us, Dan from the Mill, Jose, Michael and Grant from Young Life. We've just been working with a bunch of different people to kind of come up with some crazy Spirit Week stuff for next week. Tomorrow, middle school Zoom is taking place. Yes, Hannah just threw that. Are we hanging out on Zoom anytime soon? Yes. Tomorrow, middle school students, 4 o'clock, we're going to have a Zoom call. We're going to try to get as many middle school kids on that Zoom call as we can, and just have some chaos, have some fun, maybe play a couple games, answer some questions, pose some questions. Then on Friday, we're going to have a high school Zoom hangout, and we want as many high school as we can get on that stinking Zoom call. I'm fine if it just gets absolutely crazy. We can have 100 people on our account, so I would love if we could just max that baby out to 100. But that's Friday at 4 p.m. So Thursday, middle school, 4 p.m. Friday, 4 p.m., high school. There's stuff on our social media about that. We send out an email about that. We're texting you about that. We'll keep reminding you about that. But come hang out with us on Zoom, please. I want you to be there to hang out with us. And yes, Cam Engler put tacos. So apparently he is having tacos for dinner, and maybe you should too. Hey, let me pray for us before we go. All right. Jesus, first and foremost, I just want to thank you that you're so much bigger than this coronavirus. You are so much more powerful. And in fact, nothing that is taking place right now is outside of your knowledge, outside of your vision or control. You are still sitting on your throne. And I pray that you would remind us of that. I pray, God, that you would set and that you would engage the eternity that you've set in people's hearts. God, I know right now there's a lot of other things people are losing their hope in, whether that's their money, their jobs, finances, their social status. There's so many things that they're losing right now. And yet the one thing that we know never changes and that we'll never lose is that eternity that you promised us through our salvation in you. And so I pray that we would be carriers of that salvation to others. I pray that we would be people who would just spread joy and peace, that we would be people who would spread and be carriers of just the hope that we have in you, Jesus, and in heaven and eternity. Thanks for the students and the people that get a chance to watch this. Father, we pray that you would continue to do your work for your kingdom and for your glory. We love you, Jesus, and pray these things in your name. Amen. Hey, thanks for being here. We will see you if you're middle school tomorrow at 4 on Zoom. Friday, if you're high school, 4 on Zoom. And don't forget, we will be going live from YouTube this Sunday. We're going to have a crazy fun game for you to participate in. So we want you to be joining us here on this page for Sunday morning. We'll be going live. I love y'all. And I can't tell you, I'll start crying if I really tell you. I really miss y'all. So stay strong. We'll be back together soon. Love you. We'll see you later.